Look no further than real life if you want to find some of the most outlandish stories ever made. The twists and turns of human existence can give you better plot lines than 100 Hollywood writers working overtime. Today we're going to look at some stories that are so wild they have to be true. Hello Most Amazing Top 10 family, I'm your host Jade Arena and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Today there will be no word of a lie when I bring you the top 10 scary stories that should be turned into Netflix originals. I mean, what are they waiting for? The stories have already been written for them. As always, if you're looking for more top 10 content, you should check us out on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you stick around until the end of this list because I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts, which you guys love so much. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. Without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have the working baboon. For this first point, we're going to head over to South Africa and shoot all the way back to the 19th century. See, trains were a big thing back then, and there was a very important job called a signalman. This is basically the person that would send the trains in the right direction so they got to the proper location and never crashed into one another. And there was a very famous signalman that was named James White. He was notorious for jumping in between trains, and people told him that it was very dangerous. Well, one day he would learn when he missed his jump and lost both his legs. Back then, it wasn't easy to make prosthetics, so James now needed an assistant to help him work the levers. So instead of getting a person to save costs, James hired a baboon. This is when Jack the Baboon started working with the railway. He was with them for 9 years. I can see it now. It's a comedy about a baboon working on a railway station, and Jack Black plays the baboon. Coming in at number 9, we have torpedo misfire. There are plenty of environments that you would never want to be stranded. Like if you're on a deserted island with a bunch of coconuts and a freshwater stream, that's not the best scenario, but it could be worse. But what about at the bottom of the ocean? Well, in the year 1960, a crew of Soviet submariners were stuck on the ocean floor. They were doing some torpedo testing when one of the torpedoes misfired inside the launch tube, which caused the submarine to sink and start flooding with water. Now, this seemed like it should have been a death sentence for everyone who was on board, but someone on the ship devised a plan. They would let the submarine flood until their bodies were acclimated to the water pressure. Then, one by one, they would swim out of one of the empty torpedo tubes to the surface. In the end, every dude made it to the surface and survived, but a few of them had to be rushed to medical care for collapsed lungs and decompression sickness. This would be a 1-hour action special where the group of bull-headed submariners risk it all to save the whole crew. Jack Black is the janitor who accidentally gets stuck on the ship. Coming in at number 8, we have the Comet Conmen. Back in the year 1910, people started losing their minds. The Halley's Comet was making another pass around the Earth, which is one of the most normal events in the universe, but this was at a time before we understood the universe as well as we do now. So the comet brought with it fear. Most of this fear stemmed from Camille Flammarion, who wrote a paper about the possible poison gas that could have been intertwined into the comet's tail. The worry was that this gas would slip into our atmosphere and cause the extinction of the human race. And we know how much the tabloids love salacious news, even when it's fake. So a couple of newspapers ran the story, which led to widespread panic. People started looting stores for gas masks, and several people saw this as an opportunity to profit off the stupid. Con men made pills that would protect people against the toxic gas that the comet would bring. The show would be a disaster comedy, and Jack Black is the bumbling con man. Coming in at number 7, we have Stuck in the Clouds. I don't have a fear of flying, but it's stories like these that make you understand why people would. Iwa Winanurska was a professional paraglider, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it might be one of the coolest things I have ever heard. Well, she was doing a warm-up round for an upcoming tournament, and I guess she should have checked the weather report before she went out flying because 2 thunderstorms closed in around her and caused a massive updraft. The wind caused her to continually glide higher and higher until she was over 30,000 feet above the ground. Now, many of you might be thinking that the air is way too thin up there to breathe and the temperatures are so low that you might freeze to death. Well, you are right. The combination of low temp and low oxygen caused Iwa to pass out, and this is when the story gets even crazier. She didn't crash to the ground. Her unconscious body kept gliding until she was at a low enough altitude to wake up, and she safely landed. This is a movie similar to 127 Hours, and Jack Black plays the spirit guide who she communicates with after she passes out. Coming in at number 6, we have Julian Kopec, the survivalist. This story is similar to The Revenant, but it might be even crazier. Julian Kopec was flying over Peru to go visit her father, and something very unfortunate happened. The plane was hit by lightning and crashed. Everyone died in the crash, but Julianne was thrown from the plane when it was hit by lightning, and while still buckled in her seat, she tumbled to the earth and crashed into the Amazon rainforest. She woke up severely injured and blind in one eye, but she could still move, so she started to navigate her way out. She eventually came to a river and followed it downstream for 9 days. This entire time, she didn't sleep, partly because her wounds had been infested with insects and the pain kept her awake. She eventually made it to a boat which had some unused gasoline inside it. She then used the gasoline to treat her wounds, which caused the bugs to work their way out of her skin. The owners of the boat found her and then took her to a place where she could be rescued. This is a survival Netflix original in 2 parts. In this one, Jack Black also plays the spirit guide, which ties the Iwa story into the same cinematic universe. Coming in at number 5, we have The Gray-Skinned Body. I don't know how this hasn't already been made into something. In the early 20th century, 2 backpackers in Australia called the police because they had found a dead body. When the police arrived on the scene, they quickly realized 2 things. The person had strange gray skin and most certainly was not dead. They rushed him to the hospital, but the hospital was baffled and had no idea how to treat this man. Why? Because they could only recognize 1/5 of his internal workings. The doctors were stumped, and that night the body went missing. To this day, there never has been an answer as to what happened. Jack Black plays the half-dead alien that has to escape the hospital. That's what that one is. Coming in at number 4, we have Making a Break for It. Prison breaks are a proven concept, so this story is perfect because it also mixes in World War II. In 1941, a group of men were being held in a Russian gulag. They devised a plan to escape and they were able to get out unharmed. But that was just the start of their journey. They had to cross Siberia in the winter and then pass through the Gobi Desert as they worked their way south to India. They did this entire trip on foot. Think of that the next time you can't get inspired to get up and go to the gym. There is a 100% chance that this is a 1-season TV show starring Michael Fassbender. He plays the unusually handsome leader of the group who does whatever it takes to make sure everyone makes it home alive. Jack Black will play his wife who kisses him on the lips when they reunite. Coming in at number 3, we have the Mary Celeste conspiracies. I'm sure many of you know about the Mary Celeste. If you don't, I will give you a quick rundown. In 1872, the Mary Celeste was traveling from New York to Europe. It was carrying a ton of food, men, and booze. Everything should have gone as planned, but the ship was discovered off the coast of Portugal without a single soul on board. There wasn't any sign of a struggle, and what happened to the crew stands today as one of the greatest mysteries of all time. Now, here's my pitch for the show. It's an anthology. The main theme of each episode is what could have possibly happened on the Mary Celeste. The episodes have no relation to one another, and there are no limits on what you can explore. You can go fantasy, you can go sci-fi, or keep it realistic. The only rule is that Jack Black and Michael B. Jordan are in every episode. That is the buddy team up that the world needs right now. Coming in at number 2, we have Fitzpatrick Double Down. This is my kind of guy. He would talk trash and then he would back up his trash talk with action. This story is about Thomas Fitzpatrick. This guy was one of the most daring pilots of his day. And one day, a buddy of his questioned his abilities as a pilot. So he turned to his buddy and he made a bet. He said he was such an ace pilot that he could land a small plane on a New York street. There was one problem. Thomas didn't have a plane, but he wasn't about to let his friend badmouth him. So Thomas stole a plane from New Jersey and pulled off a skilled landing, making himself look like an absolute legend. After he did this, he told the story to a bartender who called him a liar. So Thomas once again stole a plane and this time landed it right in front of the bar. And I think we all know that Jack Black plays both the friend and the bartender. Coming in for the number 1 spot, we have Trapped in a Bubble. One of the wildest miracle stories that you will ever hear. The Jackson 4 was a regular fishing boat with a small crew. The crew went out on a fishing trip and were hit by a terrible storm. The crew managed to escape on a raft, while everyone except for one dude. When the boat capsized and sank, there was one dude in the bathroom. Harrison O'Keefe was now stuck inside the boat that was sinking to the bottom of the ocean. That is a horrible way to die. Now, a team of divers was hired to head to the sunken ship and collect anything of value that could still be on the boat. That's when they had the biggest surprise of their life. When they entered the bathroom of the ship, Harrison was still in there, alive and scared to death. He had been surviving in an air bubble for almost 60 hours. He was taken to the surface and he survived the whole thing. This is a movie starring Donald Glover as the guy who is trapped in the bubble, and Jack Black is the voice of the lobster he talks to stay sane. All right, everyone, that has been our list. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and as promised, I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pets every day, so if you don't get picked one day, you message back another day. And without taking any longer, let's shout out some pets. First up, we have the cat pudding in a box, which is the only thing I want delivered to me from Amazon. Then we have Strider, who is too cute to handle. After that, we have Jay and his super shaggy dog, Lewis. Next, we have Black and Zeke, who are a couple of squishy brothers. And to close it out, we have Nynx, who is the king of the castle. All right, guys, that is all we have for you here today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Shade Arena, and keep enjoying this crazy content. Bye. Coming in at number 8, we have the Comic Comet. Iwa. Winnerska. But this time it was understood. Most of this fear stemmed from Camille Flammarion. Sounds like a Pokemon.